Hey friend, let's get moving. Come into all fours to begin. And we're gonna get really picky about this all fours position here. So first, we wanna make sure that we have wrist under shoulder and that the hands are shoulder width apart. So they're not too close, they're not too wide. And then you should be able to see the color of your mat or your rug or whatever you're on in between your fingers. And so feel into your hands, see if you can work some of the load into your fingers so it's not all back here in the heels of your hands. So pressing forward into the fingers a little bit, let's just start to shift from side to side, kind of swaying on the hands. And notice how far can I go over here while still pressing into my fingers evenly? How far can I lean to this side while still pressing into my fingers evenly? Maybe go in a circle. Just feel that out. And then coming into center, we're gonna stretch the wrists really quickly. So take your right fingertips and turn them back towards your right knee. And if you wanna do both sides at the same time, you can. So keep your fingers spread wide here and keep loading the fingers. So keep pushing into the fingertips while you're here. Less stretch would be leaning forward or just taking the hand forward. More stretch would be leaning back, taking the shoulder behind the wrist. And go ahead and float those fingers back around. Let's switch to the left side. So turn your left fingertips back towards your left knee. Keep the fingers spread wide, keep pressing into the fingers. So not just clawing into the finger pads, but also trying to keep your fingers long and strong and engaged. If you want to intensify, you can lean back a little bit here. And then turn those fingers forward. Now take your right hand and make a fist. So see how I have my thumb wrapped around my index finger? I'm gonna make sure to keep my index finger glued in like this. And I'm gonna put my hand on the ground, my fist on the ground, and then you're gonna start to lower the back of the hand towards the ground. Now, maybe it won't go all the way. That's cool. You know, stop where you feel a manageable degree of stretch. If you are working with your hands a lot or you're at the computer on the keyboard a lot, your wrists might and your forearms might feel that this is really intense exercise. So do what's manageable. You want to still be able to take a comfortable breath. And again, your hands are going to try to uncurl, but you're really keeping your fist engaged. And then go ahead and lift back up onto the knuckles and then plant that hand firmly again. Left hand comes into a fist and maybe channel all of your rage about everything into this fist. So really, really grip it. Use your thumb to lock the index finger in place. Press your fist down and then start to lower the back of the hand towards the mat. And again, it might get there. It might not. No big whoop, as Mike Myers used to say on Coffee Talk. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. And if you don't, you just think I'm crazy, and that's fine too. Okay, go ahead and take your hand out of that stretch. Now, put both hands firmly back down on the ground in that very precise position with the wrists under the shoulders. And hands, shoulders apart, shoulder width apart. So these are scapular retraction push-ups here. So we're gonna keep the arms straight and we're gonna keep the elbow crease. I'm gonna face you so you can see this. So I'm gonna make sure that this crease of my elbow is pointing straight ahead, okay? Now, when you try to point the crease of the elbow forward, if there's some restriction in the shoulders, the index finger side of your hand might start to lift. So, you know, do what you can. Find that sweet spot where you can rotate the elbow creases forward as far as possible while still keeping the hand planted down. Now you're gonna squeeze your shoulder blades towards the spine, in towards one another. And as you do that, the chest might move down towards the ground. And then push into your hands and move your shoulder blades away from the spine. So again, shoulder blades come in. Maybe you can do that as you take a breath in. And then as you breathe out, press through the hands and let the shoulder blades move away from the spine. Inhale to squeeze in, exhale to squeeze out. So keep doing that. If you can't figure that out, it looks like this. So when you squeeze the shoulder blades in towards the spine, it's like my birds are moving in towards the spine. And then when you exhale and you push through your hands, the birds move away from the spine. The trick is to try to keep the elbow creases pointing forward the whole time. So maybe your move is a little bit just like this, a little toggle back and forth. Maybe it's a little bit bigger. Everybody is different. Do what you can. Last one. Okay, curl your toes under and reach your hips back towards your heels. If you feel a huge stretch in your feet and in your toes, you're gonna wanna kind of hang out here and keep some of the weight in your hands. If you want to intensify or deepen in the feet, then walk your hands back towards your knees and start bringing your torso more upright. Now, be picky about your feet. You don't want your heels pointing out side to side. Can you point your heels straight up towards the ceiling? Getting a nice little stretch in the toes and in the feet. And then wherever you are, can you push your toes back into the ground? It's gonna look like you're not really doing anything. I'm doing it right now, but it doesn't look any different. I'm just pressing my toes back against the stretch. Okay, go ahead and bring your hands back down to the ground. If you wanna circle your ankles, pop your toes, whatever, do that. Get your hands precisely placed. And now, we're gonna take the right hand up off the ground. So there are many ways that we can take the right hand up off the ground. We can just pick the hand up by bending the elbow. Try that. Notice when you pick your hand up, do you displace the rest of your body? Can you try to keep your body in the same tabletop all fours position? Now, another way that you can lift your hand up off the ground is to take your arm forward. And again, can you do that while still keeping the rest of your body in this same all fours position? Another way to lift your hand off the ground would be to squeeze your right shoulder blade in towards your spine. So that would look like this. Can you do that and still keep the rest of your tabletop undisturbed? You don't want to spill anybody's dinner. Okay, now I have another way for you to pick up your hand off of the ground. So you can kind of imagine that there's a hook here on the back of your right rib cage, back of the right side of the rib cage, and somebody is pulling a string up there. So it's kind of a twist action, okay? So that's one way. So go ahead and do that. Take the right hand off the ground by lifting up through the right side of the rib cage, and then wrap your right arm around in front of you. If your left wrist is bothering you or is tired, go ahead and come up onto a fist. Okay, so you have your right arm around. Now take a breath in and let your right shoulder release towards the ground. And then as you exhale, level the shoulders back in place. Inhale to release, kind of coming into a twist on a release here. And then as you exhale, using those tummy muscles to steady you back out. Last one. And put your right hand down. Take a wiggle. Let's explore all the ways that we can lift the left hand off the ground. So get your firm tabletop. See if you can keep your table undisturbed as you destabilize one of the legs of the table, which is actually an arm. So just bend your left elbow to pick your left hand up off the ground. Can you keep your table stable? That rhymes. Okay, now take your left arm forward. That's a little different. Is your core still waking up to keep the table stable? And then, what was the other way? Oh yeah, the shoulder blade. Can you pull your left shoulder blade in towards your spine? It's like almost like a scapular retraction push up, but not. Now the other way is to imagine that there's that hook there on the back of your rib cage on the left side, and somebody's pulling up. So it's kind of a twist. It's tiny. Wrap your left arm around the front of your torso, take a breath in, and let your left shoulder come down towards the ground. And then as you exhale, you're leveling yourself out. Inhale to release the left shoulder down, kind of twisting, releasing into a twist. And then as you exhale, you level back out by lifting up through the back left side of the ribs. Last one. And put your left hand down. Let's get off the hands for a break. So sit on your bottom, take your feet in front of you with your knees bent, and put your hands behind your back. Now you can do fists or fingertips or whatever is comfortable, and start to windshield wiper your legs from side to side. Now, hopefully you can work on getting your knees to the ground. You can play around with how close your feet are. Now, obviously, if your feet are really close together, you're not going to be able to get your top knee to the ground because your bottom leg is going to be in the way. But it does feel like a different experience for the hips when you keep your feet closer together as opposed to farther apart. If this is feeling easy and manageable, try doing it with no hands. And I always travel. So I know that when I get to the front of my mat, I've done enough. So when I get there, that's when we're gonna stop. Hopefully you're traveling too. Okay, so I made it. Let's come back to all fours. So precisely place your hands on the ground. And now we're gonna do kind of the same thing that we did with the upper body, but now into the lower body. So there's lots of ways that you can lift your legs up off the ground. First way is just draw your right knee into your chest. Okay, that's one way. You could also open your leg out to the side. Hello, hips. Okay, when you do that, what happens? Does your body lean over to the other side to compensate? Can you keep your table stable? So another way to lift your knee up off the ground is by having that hook again on the back of your right pelvis, the back of the right side of the pelvis, and somebody is lifting that up so it would look like this. Now, I'm going to turn to face you so that you can see that when I lift my hip that way to pick my knee up off the ground, I'm not shifting over to the left side. So my left hip is right over top of my left knee the whole time. So as you have your hip up, you have a choice. Kind of easier is to straighten your leg out and put your toes lightly on the ground. It's a little bit more challenging to keep your leg lifted off the ground. Now, you're going to let your right hip release towards the ground. So this is like releasing into a twist for your lower half. Then as you exhale, you're gonna level the hips back out by lifting the back right side of the pelvis towards the ceiling. Inhale to let the pelvis release. Exhale to level the hips. Inhale to let the right hip lower. Exhale to lift. And the whole time, the left hip stays stacked over the left knee. And release. Okay, bring your knee in. Take a wiggle. Again, if your hands and your wrists start to get tired, do it on fists. Another option is to fold your mat to elevate the heels of your hands a little bit. But you still want to keep pressing into your fingers, your long fingers. Okay, so this time just pick up that left knee. See how you can do it. If you take it out to the side like the fire hydrant, does your right hip come way out to the side? Can you keep your table stable? I think we found the name for this class. Okay, so now you've got that hook on the back of the left hip. And so you're gonna imagine that somebody's got a string around that hook, a rope around that hook, and they're lifting it up towards the ceiling. And then from there, extend the leg back. So maybe the toes rest lightly on the ground. Maybe your leg stays lifted. Your right hip stays stacked over your right knee. Now as you inhale, let your left hip release towards the ground. So if you have a level, the bubble is tipping over to the side. Okay, and then as you exhale, level it back out. So bring the bubble of the level to the middle. Inhale to release it down. Exhale to level. Periodically, maybe checking in with that right hip, making sure it's still stacked over the knee. Last one. Okay, bring your knee back down. Let's give the hands a break. Come back to your bottom, knees back out in front. So options, you have options. You can keep your hands behind you and keep working on this windshield wiping motion. You can stay here with hands free. You can also see about dropping your knees over to one side. And then I do this as I exhale. So take a breath in, and then as you exhale, can you lift up? Now, you want to make sure your knees are 100% on board here. So if you're feeling discomfort in your knee joints, that's something that we need to talk about later. Don't try to bring that in here. Just stay with your bottom on the ground if a joint is bothering you here. So you have options. And again, once I get to the front of the mat, then we're gonna move on. Okay, here I am. I made it. Let's come back to all fours. We're gonna put the two twists that we've done with the upper body and the lower body together. So place your hands really precisely. Your knees are under your hips. So we're gonna start with the right arm. So pick up the right arm by lifting the right back rib cage up towards the ceiling, and then extend the arm. Then left hip, okay? Left hip and left knee are gonna go up and extend the left leg. So here we are. Make sure, maybe check back. Is my right hip still over my right knee? Is my left shoulder still over my left wrist? And then kind of hug your arm and your leg in towards the midline. And release down. Other side. Okay, left arm lifts by lifting the back of the rib cage up. Extend the arm forward, and then right hip lifts the right knee, and extend the right leg back. Check in, left hip over left knee, right shoulder over right wrist, elbow crease forward maybe. Still pressing through the long fingers or on the fist. Hug the leg and the arm now into midline. And release, knee down, hand down. Take a wiggle. You did it. Good job. Let's take a little break here on our tummy. So lower yourself down onto your forearms. And just relax here for a Sphinx. Let your buttocks relax. Let your legs relax. And then from here, activate your forearms a little bit. Press into your hands and your fingertips. Curl your toes under. We're going to a plank. So you can use your knees here to help get your pelvis off the ground if you need to. Let's lift on an exhale. So take a breath in to prepare. And then as you exhale, lift the pelvis up. So the knees might stay down or the knees might lift. Now, while you're here, hug your ribs up. So kind of imagine that you're in that scapular retraction push-up that we did earlier. The shoulder blades are moving apart, and as the shoulder blades move apart, the elbows firmly press down, and then the forearms engage to get the fingers down. Can you relax your tongue? Can you smile? I'm probably turning red. I feel like I'm turning red. Maybe you're turning red too. For 3, 2, and 1. Ooh, let your belly come down. That was good. Okay, now push yourself up to a seat. And we're gonna lie down on our backs. When you get down to your back, move your microphone if you need to, and then extend your arms straight by your sides so your fingertips are kissing your heels. And just relax your arms by your sides. So take a breath in, and as you exhale, lift your hips up away from the ground any amount. Inhale, hips lower. Exhale, hips lift. Now, dial that in to autopilot, and now in your mind's eye, watch that movement of your pelvis. You know that an elevator goes straight up and down, unless you're Willy Wonka. He has a special one. So keep your pelvis riding the elevator straight up and down. Now, lift your pelvis up. Pelvis has gone to the top floor, or maybe the floor just below the top floor, because we don't need to be crazy. Now, see if you can keep your pelvis stable and lift one heel away from the ground at a time. If that's working for you, if that's feeling easy peasy lemon squeezy, then we're gonna try lifting a leg at a time and marching. So when you lift a leg up, the tendency might be for that hip to collapse. But you want your hips to stay level the whole time. So let's break that down. So you can stop marching. You can stop lifting your heels. Go ahead and keep your left leg grounded, but pull your right knee into your chest and extend your right leg up in the air. Now, maybe you just work here and trying to hold yourself up on one leg. If you have extra strength or awareness to spare, inhale and let your right hip dip down. And then as you exhale, push up through your right foot, and you're gonna feel your tummy muscles turn on to level out your pelvis. Inhale to let the hip come down. Exhale to level. This is the same thing we did in all fours, just different relationship to gravity. Put that right foot down. Okay, left foot. Pull the left knee into the chest. Lift your left leg up. And now, let your left hip fall down towards the ground. Take a breath in. As you exhale, push up through the foot to level the hips out. Inhale to release. Exhale to push. And again, if just keeping one leg up in the air feels like enough of a challenge for you today, that's where I want you to work. Good. And then put your left foot down. Give your hips a little break. Set your pelvis back down on the mat. Take a breath in and out. And now lift your hips back up and let's try the marching one more time. So maybe you're just marching with your heels, or maybe you're marching with your whole foot lifting up. And so sometimes I like to keep my hands on my hips here as just a tactile reminder that I'm keeping them level. Also, I'm not pushing my elbows into the ground, okay? That's cheating. Okay, and go ahead and relax down. Now, cross your left thigh over your right thigh and open your arms. And let your legs tip over towards the right, only as far as you can go while still keeping the left side of the rib cage on the ground. So we're not rolling all the way over. We're not letting the left shoulder come up off the ground. I know you can probably get your legs to the ground, great, but just for today, do it this way. Okay, and then bring your legs back up to the middle, uncross, right thigh crosses over. And again, you're gonna let your legs fall towards the left, but you're gonna keep your right rib cage on the ground. And I actually went too far for my body there. Okay. And then come back to center, uncross the legs, and now take the left ankle and cross over the right thigh. So if you feel a good stretch in the outside of the left hip, hang out here. If you want to up the ante, go ahead and float the right foot up off the ground. And I like to do it hands-free, but some people need their hands to hold them into the shape. So you can always interlace behind your right thigh or on top of your right shin. If it feels like you're reaching and it's too hard to get there, put something under your head and shoulders to help you. Maybe a blanket or a pillow. And do a little rocking with your legs. Notice how the stretch sensation in your outer hip changes as your rocking happens. and switch. Put your feet down. I'm gonna take this out. And then put your right ankle on top of your left thigh. Check in, is this a good stretch? Cool, stay there. If it's not, if you want more, float the left foot up off the ground. You can do no hands if that's easy. If it's not easy, make it easy. Interlace your fingers behind your thigh or on top of your shin. You can even use a strap, wrap a strap or a belt around your leg to hold on to, or also put something under your head and shoulders. Take some nice deep breaths. When you really tune in to the stretch sensation, can you feel a difference in the stretch sensation from your inhale to your exhale? And release. One foot down, then the other foot. Maybe you want to extend your legs. Maybe you want to stretch. Maybe you're ready to take a break and you want to relax. And if so, set a timer on your phone and you take a moment for you. If you're ready to move on with your day, bend your knees, roll over to one side, sit up. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time.